Alright, thanks Karen, and now we're actually going to go over to Atticus here with the weather. What do you say, Atticus? What? Oh, hey, so, weather. Yeah, so, as you can see, right now, it is 69 degrees in Yadkinville here. We do have showers pretty much all day, and as you can see, we have the hourly forecast down here somewhere around this section, maybe in the middle-ish, I don't know. It's going to be showering for a while, and as you can see, we'll go over to this where there's lots of days of rain and thunderstorms with one sunny day on Friday. Thanks, and back to you, Jeff. Thanks, Atticus. You're sure we can't fire him? Like, he's ridiculous. Literally, he's worthless. He's so... What is going on, guys? So today we are back with another deep dive, and today is... Yeah, we should have gotten a cup announcement. And hopefully by the time this video goes live, we will have that cup announcement. But at the moment, the only news that I've had is that we are going to get it within the next like 24 hours, but there's no concrete time on when we'll get it. It's just kind of like up to them doing a little bit more testing, making sure that everything is a-okay before they push it out, but they are pretty much going to show us what they've got in the next 24 hours, so it's literally just a waiting game. So anyways, today we're actually going to be going over another Pokemon for the Rainbow Cup, and based on the way that the cup announcements should go, this should technically be our last one, and I felt that it was fitting that we actually go over Suicune today, not only because he was actually next in line. Honestly, he was tied with Houndoom, and I think that for the meme, we're gonna go with Suicune here. So Suicune is actually a pure water type Pokemon, maxing out at 2983 with 15s across the board at level 40, which is a pretty good CP. I think maybe in the Ultra League he would actually do pretty good there. Even in the Master League, maybe. But to actually get it under this 1500 CP cap, we do need a 1 on attack, 15 defense, 14 stamina at level 19. And according to my spreadsheets and all the numbers that I have ran, Suicune should rank 8th in bulk here and 7th in stat product, which is actually pretty good. And then of course all of this does come from our base stats here with a 180 on attack, 235 defense, and 225 stamina. That is an amazing freaking stat spread for PvP. Like, that is awesome. So now let's actually go over our moves here. So we're going to start with Hidden Power. At a 2.67 energy per turn, we do get 3 damage per turn. Most of the time we're not going to get a stat bonus here, but if we do have Hidden Power Water, we will actually get that stat bonus, which does bump us up to a 3.6 on the damage. And then we do have Extra Sensory here for 3 1/3 energy per turn for 2.67 damage per turn. We do not get any stat bonus because we are not a Psychic type. And then the only other move that we left off in the fast move area was Snarl. It's the exact same as Extra Sensory, a 3 1/3 energy per turn for 2.67 damage per turn. The reason that we left that off, you'll pretty much get to see that in the spreadsheet that we look at, but it's basically because Extra Sensory does just a tad bit better up against the meta rather than Snarl does. So I decided to include that on the board because I think it deserves a little bit more attention than Snarl does, and I actually think that Snarl is going to do better up against the majority of the cup rather than the meta, but hey, take that for what you will. Now in the charge move areas, we actually did leave off a move. We actually left off Water Pulse. For 60 energy, you get 70 damage at a 1.17 damage per energy ratio. It does get bumped up after stab to an 84 on the damage with a 1.4 on the damage per energy ratio, but it's a lot higher of a charge than Bubble Beam, and it's just as bad in terms of the payoff. It's actually technically a tad bit better in efficiency than Bubble Beam, but I think Bubble Beam deserves a spot here because it is our fastest charging move at only 40 energy. Even though it's abysmal in terms of damage, I think that we kind of would want to use a a quick move here so that we can kind of shield pressure a little bit. And then that would actually count as our stab move. Plus we could actually have a difference if you wanted to. You could actually run Hydro Pump here, which I think would kind of help out quite a bit in terms of damage. If you seriously are lacking the water damage on your team, then I think Hydro Pump would probably be better to go with. Although it does make you a tad bit slower, considering that would make Ice Beam our next fastest move here. And then after Ice Beam, it would be Water Pulse, which we have already talked about. So Bubble Beam here for 40 energy, we do get 45 damage at a 1.1 damage per energy ratio. After Stab, it does get bumped up to the 54 on the damage for a 1.35 on the damage per energy ratio. Hydro Pump here for 75 energy, we get 130 damage at a 1.73. Then it does get bumped up to 156 on the damage for a 2.08 on the damage per energy ratio. Lastly, we do have Ice Beam for 55 energy, we get 90 damage at a 1.64. After Stab, wait, we don't get stabbed. We're not an ice type, oddly enough. So to understand how these fast moves are gonna work, I decided to put everything into a spreadsheet, take all of the numbers, and yes, this took way too long. So we do have a column for each individual fast move here. Extrasensory and Snarl showing up first, and then we have Bug, Dark, Dragon, Electric, Fighting, Fire, Flying, Ghost, Grass, Ground, Ice, Poison, Psychic, Rock, Steel, and Water. Okay, so we have them all. We have everything. I ran the sims for all of them. So you can see that on the left here, we do have all of our Pokemon, and then at the very bottom, we do have times this move wins the matchup, and then we have times that this move is doing the best compared to all of the other moves. Then we have times that this move is doing the worst compared to all the other moves. So let's actually zoom in a little here so we can see a little bit better. So we're actually gonna start with this zoom reel here, and you can kind of see, I'm not gonna go through every single one of these because there's like 15 or 16 different fast moves, and like it's insane. So we're just gonna kind of like run through one so that I can kind of show you how this works. You can see Extrasensory and Snarl are colored yellow, so that means that they are not the best nor the worst. You can see that Hidden Power Dragon is the worst fast move up against the Azumarill, while Hidden Power Electric actually performs really good. Now it is green, but it's actually tied for the best with Grass and with Poison there, because Azumarill actually carries a weakness to both Electric, Grass, and also Poison for all three of those. So that is actually how that's going to show up. So once you go through each and every individual Pokemon, you'll get down to where basically you just kind of want to know which ones work the best. You can actually see that Extrasensory actually wins 8 times out of the 21 matchups in the actual Rainbow Cup meta here. But that's actually not our best move here. Snarl also does 8 different wins, which is great, don't get me wrong. But if you look over here, we do have, holy cow, a Hidden Power Rock that actually allows us to win 9 different matchups. Now it actually doesn't do the best in terms of like always like preferred. It doesn't have the highest battle rating compared to the other moves. That one actually goes to Hidden Power Grass here, but that actually makes quite a bit of sense if you think about it, because a lot of the Pokemon in the cup are actually water types, and we're gonna see this in the other side of all the Pokemon that we go up against, where Grass is definitely weighted just because of the fact that how many water type Pokemon are just flat out in the cup. So if that's true, then Hidden Power Grass is actually the move that's preferred more times over any other move. And that actually shows true on PvPoke. If you look at the rankings page, Hidden Power Grass is actually like the top one, I think. Either Hidden Power Grass or Hidden Power Electric. They're both really, really good. So then we go on to which one is actually doing the worst. Snarl actually doesn't have any worst matchups. It's actually probably the most like well-rounded of all the moves, considering that it's never the least favorite, the least scoring. But here again, Hidden Power Grass actually shows up, which that makes sense because we do have quite a few resistances that we're going up if we use Hidden Power Grass as well, so it's kind of like it's a trade-off. Hidden Power Grass is going to do extremely well up against the Pokemon that it's super effective against, but it's going to kind of suck up against the Pokemon that it's going to be resisted up against. So let's take that information, let's actually roll over here to all of the Pokemon in the cup. You can see it's set up the exact same. We do have all of our Pokemon, all of our moves up at the top in the exact same order. And just like the meta page, we're actually not going to go through all of these. That would take insanely long. We're just going to kind of skip down here. And you can see I have it open on my computer, so that's kind of ruining that. So we basically have every time that these moves are basically preferred, here again, when they do the best and when they do the worst. So we have our times that this move wins the matchup. You can see Extrasensory actually barely falls behind Snarl. Snarl actually allows us to win one more matchup up against the entire Rainbow Cup, not just the meta, the entire Rainbow Cup. We actually do better in one matchup compared to Extrasensory there. But even those aren't the best. You can see Hidden Power Electric is dominating with 51 wins. I think that makes Hidden Power Electric probably the best generalistic move up against the entire Rainbow Cup for Suicune. And you can kind of see that our big performers here, Grass, again, is definitely doing the best more often than any other move, but it's also doing the worst more than any other move as well, because it is kind of in that awkward spot where it's really good up against a ton of the Pokemon because there's tons of water types, but it's also really bad because it's resisted by a bunch of other Pokemon. And then our other outstander was the Hidden Power Rock there, which is still putting up some pretty respectable numbers. Hidden Power Steel, I definitely think is the absolute worst idea. If you have Hidden Power Steel, rip, my condolences for you. After that though, it's pretty much easy peasy. Based on those numbers, I'm actually gonna choose Hidden Power Rock to give us the simulations for the rest of this video. The sheer fact that we win the most up against the most relevant Pokemon in the cup, the fact that Hidden Power Rock is the best Hidden Power move to go up against the meta with, we might as well give our Suicune the best possible moveset there. So in terms of the fast move, we're actually going to go with that Hidden Power Rock. And then in terms of our charge moves, we're actually going to go with Bubble Beam because we do want to have that speed. And we're actually going to go with Ice Beam to try to help cover a little bit of our weakness with the grass types, but also trying to give us a little bit more of a unique move for some little bit more coverage if we needed it. So with Hidden Power Rock, Bubble Beam, and Ice Beam, holy cow, this is where it starts to get interesting. So we are going to throw our shields down here. We're actually going to talk about our shields really fast with a 0 versus 0 situation, kind of like a closing type situation. We do end up winning 39.1% of these, which is okay. That's not like super great, but that is doing okay. Then with the 2 versus 0, we actually end up winning 88%. But we're not actually too concerned about the 88%. We're actually more concerned about those ones that we don't win. If I have complete shield advantage with 2 shields and my opponent doesn't have any shields, I'd like to know which Pokemon still end up beating me when I have that much shield advantage. And to no one's surprise here, it's a lot of the grass types. Just basically a hardcore weakness to our pure water typing is going to tear through us. There were a couple of electrics that did show up here like Lantern and Chinchou, but other than that, it was pretty clean on the grass. Next, we'll move on to our 0 versus 2, which is actually a 14.1%, and those are actually the ones that we're concerned about. If they have complete shield advantage with 2 shields where I don't have any, I'd like to know which Pokemon I can still end up beating, and with those, I actually end up beating quite a few fire types here. Considering we do have the rock type, it is pretty good up against the fire. We do have some bug types that show up here, which does make some sense considering bugs are weak to rock, and then Cloyster, for what that's worth. And then in our last shield scenario, we do have this 2 versus 2, which is where I have both shields, opponent has both shields, kind of like a opening type situation, if you will. We actually end up winning 42.4% of those, which, okay, it didn't get a whole lot better that I was expecting from our 0 versus 0, but considering that we do win 42.4% of the time with our opening type situation means we definitely prefer to open rather than close with Suicune at the 39.1%. So now we're actually going to get into some matches here with our Suicune, and we're actually going to go up against the entire Rainbow Cup meta here as defined by PvPoke. If you want to follow along, you can do this in PvPoke. We're just going to go to our Suicune. We're going to set it up with Hidden Power Rock, Ice Beam, and Bubble Beam like we talked about. We're going to give ourselves 1 shield. Up here at the top, you can kind of guys see, we're going to go with a multi-battle here. We're going to do a custom group, give them 1 shield as well for the evenness. And we're going to choose Rainbow Cup meta in that quick fill option. We're going to hit battle. And as you can see, we do have those 9 wins, 12 losses, and 0 draws. So as you can see here, we do have wins up against Charizard, Ninetales, Mantine, Macargo, Lapras, Venomoth, Kingdra, said that out of order, Execute, and Beedrill. Those are actually the 9 wins that we carry, which out of those are pretty solid. I mean, Charizard's a pretty big one, but we do have Hidden Power Rock, which is great up against Charizard. Ninetales, Macargo. It doesn't look like we end up losing to a single fire type, which oddly enough, those are the only 2 fire types in the meta there. I mean, all in all, those are some pretty solid wins. And then we get to our losses. So we do start our losses off with Fortress here, then Blastoise, Slowbro, Azumarill, Quagsire, Lantern, Executor, Venusaur, Raichu, Ivysaur, Victreebel, and Meganium. All those bottom ones there do make a lot of sense. Grass type, Grass type, Grass type. Electric type is going to be rough against us. Grass type, it's going to be utilizing Seed Bomb. Electric type, it's going to have Thunder, even though for the Sims in PvPoke it is going to be using Water Gun, but still it is going to have a pretty good advantage on us. And Quagsire is just, you know, going to do what Quagsire does. So I would say that's pretty solid. I mean, surprisingly, it's a lot better than I expected out of Suicune. So now we're actually going to go over some countering with our Suicune. Basically, if it's in the green, we want to be targeting that typing with our Suicune, where if it's in the red, we don't really do that great up against them, and we kind of might want to avoid using our Suicune up against these typings. So we're actually going to stay in PvPoke here. We're just going to take our Suicune, Hidden Power Rock, Ice Beam, Bubble Beam, just like before. Give ourselves 1 shield. We're going to go over and also doing a multi-battle here, except we're just going to choose Rainbow Cup, do 1 shield there, and hit battle. And as you can see here, starting off with the bug typings, we do have some wins. We actually do have 4 losses and 1 tie only. So let's actually just scroll down here. You can see our 1 tie is up against Heracross. And then we do have Parasect, Venomoth, Beedrill, and Fortress being the losses that we carry there. Parasect kind of makes some sense. I'm sure it's prioritizing a grass type move there. Actually, no, it's actually using Fury Cutter, which is a-okay. That's pretty crazy that it's still actually beating us there. Then we do have the Venomoth, Beedrill, and Fortress. Those are pretty strong contenders, especially Fortress there, so those make some sense. So the bug type, while it could be rocky, you do lose against a couple of the more meta ones, but in general, the bug type is pretty sealed and solid. Next, we move on to the fire typing, and this one's actually pretty solid as well. We only have 1 tie, as you can see written here, which is actually Arcanine, which we talked about yesterday, which is kind of interesting. So the 1 tie up against Arcanine, and everything else is pretty good from there. And you can see that Charizard having a really rough time. Moltres also, you know, some of these you're probably not going to see, like Ho-Oh. But basically, fire typing, we've got that locked. Next, moving on to the electric typing. This one is pretty rough here. So we don't have a single win. We actually lose against every single electric type here. So we do have Zapdos as our best possible case scenario, Ampharos and Flaffy also rounding out there. And then you can see it gets really rough. So Raichu, Magneton, and Raikou are our 3 worst possible matchups there. And I'd say Magneton and Raichu are pretty solid in terms of meta picks. Raikou, you could see a Raikou if someone's trying to be cool, but still pretty hard in the electric typings as a whole. Next, moving on to the grass typings, we actually do have 1 win and 1 tie here, and that's actually the 1 win is going to be up against Celebi, and we do actually tie up against that Execute. Now, something notable here, we do flat out win if the Execute is running the moveset preferred for the meta, but if it's actually utilizing a grass type fast move, which most people aren't running on Execute, if it's running Bullet Seed, it can actually tie, just for what that's worth. Then you can see the loss against Parasect, Executor, and it just goes downhill from there. You can see Bayleaf, Meganium, and Blossom are our 3 worst possible matchups, which is no surprise. I mean, grass typing, super effective against water typing, so what are you gonna do? Last but not least here, we do have the water typing, and this one is actually okay. So up against like most of these, we do decent, but we do end up losing more than we do winning, so I do count that as more of a watch out for the water types, because not as like clean cut as most of the other typings that we do good up against. So you can see here, the Starmie is our easiest possible matchup. Cloyster also showing up there. Gyarados showing up. Dugong. A lot of these carry some ice typing with them or a super effective target for us, whether it's the flying typing or what may have it. You can see we do actually have those two ties up against both Corsola and Lapras, and then we start to fall from there for Alligator, and we feel go all the way down. Poliwrath, Lantern, and Chinchou are our three hardest possible matchups, and Octillery pulling out a close fourth. So all in all, I don't know. So Hidden Power is going to be an insanely difficult move to get just off the bat. That's going to be insanely hard to get in PvP because Hidden Power was only available at level 20 when it was a raid boss, and you're going to have to trade for that. And I think last time I checked, I don't know the exact numbers, but I think last time I checked, you would have to trade with good friends, and it was going to be like a 0-1-0 on the IV spread, or like 0-0-1 or something like that. Like, it had to be abysmal. You basically had to pray for the worst possible Suicune just to get under 1500. It can perform decently. I was pleasantly surprised at how well it did actually perform. If you were to switch and like go with one that you've gotten from a box recently, probably I would go with Extrasensory. I feel like it would be a little bit better, considering that Extrasensory is actually going to cover a lot of your weakness up against the grass typing, because a lot of those grass types that are relevant are also going to carry that poison typing, so Extrasensory does help a little bit there. It's not going to be quite as good as a confusion user like Slowbro or anything like that. I definitely think that would be the preferred way to go with this, but I mean, if you just really want to use Suicune, by all means. You know what? Why don't, if you're into Suicune, if you're into Gen 2, why not just run Raikou, Suicune, and Entei, man? Just let those freaking balls hang out and just do it. I'd love to see somebody go to a tournament and do that. That would be amazing. So that is actually going to be it for today, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out. Thanks so much for watching. Even though this was a complete joke for half of the month, it was quite interesting to actually look into. I will link that spreadsheet that I used to show all of the actual moves compared to each other. I'll put that in the comments below to try to keep it separate. I'm going to try to actually do like a running spreadsheet so that each Pokemon that I look into throughout the month, it will just always be in the actual description. There will be two spreadsheets. I kind of want to keep them separate because it's going to be extremely like an extremely large spreadsheet by the end of the month, but I'll get into that whenever we start next month's deep dive. So as always, thank you guys so much for hanging out. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you guys are excited for next month's cup. I am literally eagerly awaiting. It is 2:37 in the morning right now, and I'm still up recording videos trying to, you know, get hyped for tomorrow's cup. But either way, thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you so much for watching. Always remember that if you like to like videos, you can do that, but if you don't, you can be that guy. Otherwise, let me know what you have to say down in the comments below, and until our next video, I will catch you then.